Hey everybody, it's my ugly mug again. Today we'll be doing Parsha 4. Vieira means he appeared, as in the text. Pretty much the way this Parsha opens up in chapter 18, Adonai appeared to Abram, Abraham, as he was sitting in the entrance of his tent. It was the heat of the day. He raised his eyes, he looked up, he saw three men. And it gets really confusing, and I've kind of got my head wrapped around it after doing a bit of study and trying to read carefully what's in the text. Um, the word men or man used in this context in Hebrew is enosh, and that translates to mortal men. So these three men who appeared with it, with God, were mortal men who were given an assignment to deliver God's judgment to Sodom and Gomorrah. And it weaves in and out, and it is really, really hard to follow as you read this parsha. But yeah, anyway, as stated, God appeared to Abraham, and Abraham, he looked up and he saw these three men as well. So they were in God's company, whether they could see God or not. I guess it doesn't really say, but again, clear that these three men were on an assignment from God, and whatever powers and abilities given to these men, whatever strength given to these men were was from God. You want this cat? No. All right. Well, the whatever powers these men had, being on an assignment from God, is it just seems like a whole nother story that I really wish that I could read into, but to my knowledge, there's no text on this as to who these three men were, where they came from, their interactions with God upon, taking this assignment and that sort of thing. I mean, but just the idea that, the power was given to these three men to completely destroy, the city and plains around the city with fire and sulfur. I mean, wow, it's pretty deep. But anyway, they're there. Abraham, he's it kind of comes down to context of agency, because he knows that they are there by by direction of Yahweh. He bows down, kneels to them, you know, the same as, because that's the way, at the time that agency works. And he instructs Sarah, like, make them the finest bread with the finest flour that you have. And he goes and he finds the perfect calf, has it slaughtered and serves it with curds and milk. And who knows what else, but I just found that to be interesting, because a lot of I don't know, but I guess modern day Jews, and who knows really how long that goes back, where they kind of have it in their head. I'm not going to say who's wrong or right, but that you are not supposed to eat dairy with meat, in this case, like a cheeseburger. To them is not kosher, because it kind of goes back to that pagan ritual of boiling, boiling a baby in his mother's milk. But this, in fact, shows that at least during the Abraham days, and you know, the men that he was preparing this meal for did in fact eat a young calf with served with curds milk. So I just I don't know. I mean, to me that just kind of debunks that one piece, and again that my opinion, it has never been a case of whether or not this is kosher to eat dairy with meat. I don't think that breaks any kind of dietary laws. I think what was intended by not boiling a calf in his own mother's milk was because of that pagan ritual. It basically just trying to make sure that God's people are not worshiping in those pagan ways, etc., etc., etc. So, chapter 18, verse. Let's see. So, God, in Avram's presence, says that He's heard the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah, and He's going there to, I guess, assess things to see if it is indeed that bad. But I mean, it's God. He already knows. He's going to go there. Swift judgment. By Him going there. Yeah, I would say that, he's there. Obviously, I mean, he's an omnipresence. But the fact that he's sending these three men to represent him or to execute his will, I don't know. It again, it's kind of deep, and it definitely makes you think. But it's not like this is something unheard of. I mean, we see it throughout Scripture. And Noah building, doing impossible things. Moses doing impossible things. I mean, all these people, executing on Yahweh's will, and every accounting of it is successful because I mean the power given to these men is from God. But being God, I mean, He knows, that He's, the assessment. He knows He's God. He knows that there's not going to be a positive outcome for this, and it goes to, basically starting. Where's that? Verse 27, when Abraham asked, "Here I am now," but I'm only dust and ashes, and I'm taking up to myself to speak to you. What if there's, only 50 people there who are righteous? Would you truly destroy this city and all of its inhabitants? Basically putting on even kill righteous and evil, treating them the same. And God, being the merciful God that He is, He's like, no, if there's 50 people, I'll forgive and spare the entire city. And the Avram starts playing with numbers. He says, well, what if there's 5 less than 50? What if there's 40, 30, 30, 20, 10? And God's answer is always the same. Well, if there's 40, 30, 20, 10, I'll spare. But that to me, I think is because God already knows. He knows the answer. He's like, there's not 40, 20, 30, whatever the number, righteous people there. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like, yes, if they are there, I'll spare them. But I don't know. I think that was kind of at the time, and even still beyond our comprehension. I mean, we don't understand things in his time and in his spatial presence, and the way he understands things. I mean, he constructed all of it. He knows everything. He created everything in light and darkness. I mean, he knows how darkness works. He knows what those living in darkness need to be cleansed. And it is often judgment. I mean, yeah. And we don't really know what happens on the spiritual plane on the next side. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of good theories, but I mean, I like to believe that post judgment we are cleansed to a degree. Maybe not. To the same level as someone who did at least live the right way or tried to live in his righteousness. I think that level of cleansing is some far greater, and the reward will be a lot better. But it's we can go on and ramble about that. I have a lot of theories on that, based on things that I've read, and a lot of. I mean, it's not just my theories. It's just beliefs based on other teachings and other readings. That. So yeah, I mean, we won't call it a theory. It's just a belief. But yeah, we'll put a pin on that, and definitely talk about that at some point. But yeah, so they turned. They went to Sodom and Gomorrah to to do their thing. Cast that judgment. Where assuming this would be the men, because that was when, I mean, again, Yah is an omnipresence. He's there too, but also the accounting in the scripture is that Avram was standing before God, asking him these questions, while the men continued onward towards Sodom. And when they got there, they found Lot at the gate. Lot persuaded them to stay with him for the evening, and he prepared a simple meal. They in the text, they didn't want to go. They wanted to stay in the town square, but Lot was persuasive and got them to stay there, and offered them a meal of matzah, or unleavened bread. And I don't know why that was significant in the teaching. I mean, the whole unleavened bread, and maybe he just didn't have the rising agent or time to apply rising agent, because I'm pretty sure that they're not implying that it is during some. I mean, I know that we're not going to say like the Feast of Unleavened Bread, because that doesn't happen until way later in the Bible. But the maybe some other significant reason for that. But I mean, I don't think so, because Sarah created, like, I guess made bread and cakes for them just prior to. But again, we don't know how much time it takes from traveling from one place to the other. Back then, everything was like horseback and foot. So just going 300 miles probably took a week. But one thing I made to note right here, which kind of supported the whole idea of these men being mortal men, kind of sent by God, was the fact that in both Lot's household and when he met with Abram, or when they met with Abram, was that it had implied that they had rested at both places, and they did in fact eat at both places, which are mortal traits. But I don't know. It's just more things to really consider there, I guess. So anyway, that the guys they're at Lot's house, and then all of a sudden, all the people from Sodom kind of start showing up. All the men. It says men of like from every neighborhood or village around Sodom. Of various ages. Old men, middle-aged men, young boys. Whatever. They all showed up. Surrounded Lot's house and demanded that Lot bring the men outside. The men who came to his house, they demanded that Lot bring them outside because, where's it at? I got it in quotes. Bring them out. We want to have sex with them. Different times, and I guess that's why it was Sodom and Gomorrah, right? But yeah, that's bad. Okay, that's gonna be bad. So we're in chapter 19 now, where okay, yeah, this is exactly where it's at within the scripture. There are men who came to stay with you tonight. Bring them out to us. We want to have sex with them. So anyway. Lot stood in the doorway and said, "No, that ain't gonna happen. Take my daughters instead." Which, I don't know. To me, that's kind of heartbreaking. I would never offer up my daughter to anything like that. I mean, you'd have to kill me first. I would say no. Let's roll up our sleeves and handle business right here. But anyway, just Lot. I don't really know that much about Lot. So anyway, they got mad at Lot about that and decided that they were all going to treat him worse or give him worse treatment than they had even planned for these other men. And that's when the other men reached out, grabbed him, and closed the door behind them, and did something. They struck blindness into every man out there. By the power of Yah, obviously, the power given to them from Yah. So yeah, they were all out there wandering blind at this point, I guess. I mean, who knows what kind of chaos that would have caused? But yeah, they couldn't find the door, which it does say caused blindness, so they couldn't find the door. So that just tells you maybe they were just so intent on having sex with these men that they, even though they were blind, they were still trying. Yeah, I don't get it. Okay, verse 10 written down for some reason. My notes suck today. I'm sorry. By the men. Okay, yeah, the men reached inside. I already talked about that. So, verse 13. Because we are going to destroy it, Adonai has sent us, or has become aware of the great outcry against them, and sent us to destroy this. This is the men talking to Lot again, saying, get your family out of here. Get your wife, daughters, son-in-laws, etc. And this is God being merciful to Lot. because again, if you remember from last week's parsha, I don't believe that Lot was necessarily meant to come on this journey. I don't think that he was meant to leave the other kinsmen from the original Abraham's father's house. I think that it was just meant to be Avram and his wife and their belongings, including their employees and servants, etc. But God being merciful, he's saving Lot and those willing to actually vacate with Lot. He's saving their life. But his sons-in-laws, and I guess the daughters married to them, didn't take the warning seriously, and they stayed. But Lot and his wife, with the help of somewhere in here, but I'm not going to find it. But basically, with the help of God, and His angels, they were led away from the area in time to be saved, and it was only just because that he was spending a lot of time dawdling, I guess, or trying to who knows what he was doing. But I do remember reading that they had to intervene and actually force him to move to get him out of there. And it was told to him, very explicitly, leave, don't look back. Lot's wife looked back, and that's where the story came. Where she was turned into a column of salt or pillar of salt, column of salt. Tomato. For turning back. So what was raining down on Sodom and Gomorrah and the plains, basically the entire area, sulfur and fire, was apparently bad enough that if you observed it, if you looked at it, you'd be destroyed, you'd be reduced to, a column of salt. It just kind of really makes you think, I don't think that's just by chance, like, God was mad at her for turning around and looking, so he's like, waved his magic wand, turned her into a, pillar of salt. No, I don't think so. I think that, I think it was just whatever came to be, whatever came to make presence there to bring this kind of destruction. Just the viewing of that would have that effect on you. But it's anyway. His wife died because she turned around, looked back, turned to salt. And I guess this is where part of the story gets kind of gross, and it's all about preserving bloodline, I guess, Lot's bloodline, or creating descendants directly of him. That his daughters got him drunk, and you know the story. And it's not fun to or comfortable to talk about. But the older daughter birthed Moab, and younger Benami, and they're the ancestors of the people of Moab and Ammon. And these, I did a little bit of reading because I wasn't really familiar with that. I'm still not all that familiar with it, but I wanted to find out what that meant, who these people were, what this was. But it's just it's other civilizations, probably tribes, etc. That that may have significance later on. But that's the closure of chapter 19 for the most part. And chapter 20, Abraham is again traveling, and same as in the last parsha, he instructed his wife to state that she is his sister instead of his wife, to keep someone from killing him and taking his wife, because It's apparently punishable by death to take somebody's wife by the laws in the day. Punishable by death to take someone's wife while she's still married, and somehow more acceptable by those laws to kill somebody. Therefore, his widow is eligible again for marriage, and it's just kind of a backwards time. Less civilized if it were, but those those were laws of the people, and not Yahweh's laws, obviously, because that wouldn't make any sense based on what we know, well, based on what we know of the Father. And so anyway, God came to this king. Well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. So they travel into this kingdom where this okay, where's it at? Kadesh. Abraham traveled. Okay, blah 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 blah. Give me a second. So Abimelech is king of Gerar. Sent for Sarah because they were traveling in there. Remember, Sarah was really pretty. Even at this point, I'm about 90 years old because Abraham was right at 100 at this point, and she was 10 years younger than Abraham. So Sarah, still being 90 years old, was obviously still pretty enough where a king would send for her because he wants her. And there was some intervention there, which you learn about in a paragraph or two later. But it was apparently he was restricted or restrained from touching Sarah during the time that he had her in his company, and that was because of God. God prevented him from actually touching her. Because it's stated, that Yahweh came to this king in a dream and said, you're going to be put to death because you were with someone's wife, and made it known that that's Abraham's wife, and Abraham is mine. I've got great plans for this guy, and you need to turn them loose. And that's exactly what he did. The next day, he gathered all his people, explained what had happened, and not only did he turn Abraham and Sarah loose, he sent them on their way with with gifts, sheep, additional servants or property, servants, employees in some cases. Again, there's indentured servitude in the time and employees. I don't think there was much difference. I mean, everybody says, ooh, slaves, but I think it was different. I think that a lot of these slaves, so to be, I mean, there are people that didn't have the means to own land, or didn't, by not having the means to own land, they couldn't produce food to eat. That sort of thing. So, I mean, indentured servitude is almost like something that you would do voluntarily, because living in the indentured servitude, you were taken care of. Your master is your husband, so to speak. In this case, Avram would be responsible for, ensuring the well-being of everybody, for all the servants, etc. He'd make sure that they're healthy, make sure that they're fed, they have somewhere to sleep, that sort of thing. So, I mean, in these days, I mean, slavery, servitude, I mean, I know, in some cases, yeah, you probably have, the whips and chains of slaves. I mean, it even speaks about it in the Bible. That Abraham and his servants, I don't think were like this. I think that that it was just employment, or servants living, or I guess serving you because you take care of them. So I hope that makes sense. Hopefully I'm not rambling too much here. Hopefully, everything's making good sense. I mean, I'm doing my best, but what was I even talking about? Oh, he gave them servants, etc., etc. 1,000 1,000 gold coins. The let's see if I wrote anything down on that. Oh yeah, yeah. King Abimelech told Sarah that he gave her brother 1,000 pieces of silver. And when I was reading about this, I mean that was broken down to mean two different things. One, the silver was to be symbolic that the king has cleared them, that they are clear to go, without any kind of accountability. That they don't owe the king anything. They're free. They're free people. Free to move on and do as they wish. And an alternate meaning to that is that silver, and it's referenced in several areas throughout history, even non-biblical history, that silver is representative of pure and innocent. So that silver was meant to symbolize that the time that he had Sarah, that nothing happened. That I didn't touch your wife. Although she stayed here in my palace or tent, whatever he had, it doesn't really say for an undetermined or I guess just it didn't really say how long she was there and in his presence. But I think that maybe that was symbolic, saying that during whatever that time was that he had his wife, I didn't touch her. She's still pure. She's still yours. So yeah, chapter 21. Remembered Sarah. Okay, so Adonai remembered Sarah. She had said, so basically, just as I promised, you've conceived and you're going to have a son. So this is, this is good times. They're per the covenant God made with with Avram. Sarah has conceived a child and gave birth to a son, and his name is Isaac. Itziak. I'm sorry, it took me a second there. Itziak, which is translated as laughter, which we know is appropriate because there was a couple of times written where Sarah chuckled or laughed at God for stating that she was going to have a kid, and she and I think this angered God, but at the same time maybe God understood or something, because it didn't really seem like anything came from it. But because of that laughter, I think, is why that came to be. And at the same time, I think that I think she found humor in it, because even in her words, see if I can find it here. The son, old age, the child grew. Okay, so yeah, here it is. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Yitzhak was born. It says right there, Yitzhak means laughter. Sarah said, I'm not enunciating. Sarah said, God has given me good reason to laugh. Now everyone who hears about him will laugh with me. So that's good. So appropriate name, good timing, good ways for all that to come together. I like it. But the whole laughter thing, some time passed, long enough for Yitzhak to be weaned, and Abraham held a banquet or threw a party to celebrate his son being weaned. And that's when his other son, Ishmael, don't know how old Ishmael was at the time, but he was old enough to poke fun at Yitzhak, and causing problems. He was poking fun at him, laughing at him, and this angered Sarah, rightfully so, because Sarah, if you read back on chapter 16, verse 4, there was drama between Sarah and the slave woman, and this, I'm sure this is causing all kind of grief in the background, and basically leading up to this point where Sarah's jealousy and everything else, rightful jealousy, I think, but jealousy all the same, said just basically what she said is like, get him out of here, get him and his mother out, go, I don't want this child being raised alongside our Isaac, and this distressed Abraham for obvious reasons. That's also his son, but God God came to Abraham and told him that don't be distressed and listen to your wife, because it will be the descendants of Isaac that are counted. And remember that he promised a nation out of Ishmael as well, but it was Isaac who was to actually carry the inheritance, and the descendants from Isaac were the ones to be counted into the nations ordained, or I guess in covenant with Yahweh. And there's a footnote here that I found interesting. It's basically the Lipit Ishtar Code. It explains another possibility of why Ishmael was sent away with his mom, was that he was still considered a legitimate son, and he would have, by this code, by the standards of this code, he would have been the rightful heir to all of, to basically to Avram's estate. If Avram hadn't have sent him and his mom away. So yeah, there's multiple reasons for that, I guess, and why things played out the way they did, and why. I mean, God's a genius. He knows these things. He knows how to kill more birds with the same stone, etc. And but yeah. So something I thought was significant, and I was going to try and have a photo that I can kind of slip in here in time to show something that I thought was neat. It was verse 25 through 34. It's talking about the well that Abraham dug, and the oath or the covenant that he makes with Abimelech. I'm horrible with these names. I'm sorry, but it's Beersheba, the name of the well, and basically there were 7 lambs that were brought and given to symbolize the covenant, or to bear witness to this being the well that Abraham dug. And but what was kind of interesting about this, and something I wanted to share, and I don't know how true it is, but There are pictures of said whale, and it is said that whale is still producing or still has living water to this day. And I just thought that was kind of neat. But yeah, I didn't get that in time. But there's other biblical references to that as well. Like that's allegedly the same well where Yeshua was received water from that Lady of the Nations, and yeah, it was we can talk more on that later on too. But yeah, that was good reading. But yeah, so from here we get into Yitzhak and God testing Avram about sacrificing his son, be a burnt offering to Yah. And Linda, if you're listening to this, I know we'd met with some of my friends when you were up here that that the Ryan O'Neal, love him to death. I love the way he thinks. I love the way he challenges things and just digs deep and gets these understandings. At least for his own understanding. As to how a lot of this stuff works and what a lot of things mean. And I know that in this particular instance, and I'm only going to offer this as a thought experiment, a thought experiment. So don't think that I am trying to sell this idea to anybody. I'm not. Do I believe it? No, and I'll explain why later. But the idea that was given to us, the thought experiment, was that God approached Abraham and said, "I want you to sacrifice your son as a burnt offering." That was the test that Abraham was supposed to put his foot down and say, "No, God, that's against your laws. Uh, Human sacrifices against your laws. I can't do that," which is plausible, but you got to think, at this point, we haven't discussed those laws. I mean, those laws could well be established, but, it's just unwritten for us at this point. Maybe that is a law that God has established with others, prior to this, that we have no accounting or no writing of. But I guess well, I'll go ahead and get into it. The 26, I think it's chapter 26, verses 4 through 5. You can tell that God is very, very pleased with Abraham, and he's basically stating, because your father kept my charge, when when he commanded Abraham to do things, he did it. Is the reason why God is going to hold this covenant and do all these beautiful things with Isaac and descendants and so on and so forth. I mean, it comes down to faith, in a lot of ways, and the fact that Abraham was willing to do this, and at the same time, Abraham knew because God had already promised Abraham that I'm gonna build a nation of this boy. His descendants will be greater than the number of stars in the sky, etc. So I mean, Abraham knew that. Abraham knew, I mean, he knows, Yah doesn't contradict himself. Yah doesn't lie. He's delivered everything he's promised on so far. I mean, there's nothing There's nothing material for Abraham to have built any doubt on. And further, I guess further on that, did I write something down on that? I don't think I did. I'm stupid. The donkey. Okay, so so Yitzhak spoke to Abraham, saying, Dad. Abraham answered, Yeah. See the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? Abraham replied, God will provide himself the lamb for a burnt offering. And they both went on together. So that's one thing, God will provide the lamb. That tells, I know, things have weird, twisted, not twisted, but meanings that can be taken out of context or taken, I guess used in ways unintended. But, it's just, it's to me, I mean, that means a lot. God's going to provide the lamb. And something further, I guess, let me back up a little bit. So, we all know that Abraham, he's set apart, to go to this place, some distance. I think it took them a long time to get there, but he had 2 young men plus his son. On the third day, he raised his eyes and saw the place in the distance. And Abraham said to his young men, the companions, he said, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go there, worship, and return to you." So, I mean, it says right there that he and his boy are going to go there and worship and come back. So, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Abraham knew at this point, he knew God wasn't going to make him kill his boy. I think that he knows better than any of us Father's heart. He knows that it's not in the heart of Yahweh to make any of us kill our own child. But this is a foreshadowing of what Yah himself did go through in this. I mean, with Yeshua and the sacrifice of Yeshua for us. I mean, this is a foreshadowing because even though Abraham didn't have to go through with it, God did. God did. He sent his son to for us. And albeit God being the omnipresence, consumes all time and space at the same moment, if there were such a moment. If the problem with that, and the reason why it doesn't compute and make your head crack open, is because in that there is no moment, and it just But I guess the what I'm getting at, I keep getting distracted. I'm sorry. I haven't taken my ADD medicine in a few days now, but the fact that before Yeshua's always been there throughout the Bible. There's foreshadowing everywhere. Yeshua, same as God, unbound by time, unbound by space, and just dimensional space. He's omnipresent in both space and time, meaning that one day can be 1,000 years, 1,000 years can be one day. The way we perceive time is based on how long it takes me to travel from one point to another, and that one point could just be traveling through time itself. Like, although I have not left this seat, I have traveled through 49 minutes, 33 seconds, just sitting here talking to you. And to them, that's just something that was created for us to allow us to comprehend what we are in, We are linear. The only way we can think is linear. Therefore, we need to live in a linear world with linear measurable time. And I think that if you just try and wrap your head around how it looks or behaves in an omnipresence, it probably, I mean, I don't know, it'd probably break your mind. But the fact is that though our experience with Yeshua was linear, he's had this omnipresence with us before and after, during everything. And, you know, it wasn't the loss of a son. I mean, you know, Yeshua wasn't murdered on a cross, and then it's just he died on the cross and was resurrected. I don't know where Yeshua was at during the time between the time he died to his resurrection, but I do know that that time was just perceived by us as that time, and the accountings, between him and his father, the basically the sadness and everything that goes with the torment that Yeshua endured, and the reason why he had to do that. And again, I've said this so many times since Jess passed, and I know people are getting sick of me talking about things like that, but the feelings that we have for love is just what he's given us. He's only given us enough to satisfy us, or not even satisfy, just kind of give us an awareness of love and how to use it. Whereas, his love, the love that he feels, is much, much deeper, much deeper. Something that we could probably never even begin to imagine. And, with love comes, sadness, broken heart. When someone feels sad about the loss of someone, in my case, in the story I like to give, praying for healing, and this goes back to, I know I told a lot of you, you ask me, what can I pray for? And I tell you, just pray that I don't make selfish prayers. I think I've told that to a lot of you, maybe all of you. Pray that I don't make selfish prayers. Because my selfish prayers at the time were, God, take this cancer away from my wife, heal her, make her right, make her whole. But that just wasn't part of the plan, and I see that now. I see that this was in sacrifice for so many beautiful things that I've seen come to place after this. The effect that just had on so many lives that otherwise that effect wouldn't be recognized without this, including my own. I mean, I was lukewarm at best, and now I'm on fire. And God, please never take that fire from me. But the fact is, the love that I have for Jess, the love there, my pleading, God's love for her was much, much greater than mine. And all the pain that I felt in her sickness and her passing, his pain was much, much greater. The sadness that he felt in that loss was much, much greater than the sadness that I felt in that loss. And every time I'd pray, please fix her, make her right, it was selfishness on me. That's a selfish prayer. And I eventually stopped praying for that. And I think it was, may have been for all the prayers that have had people making for me to not be selfish in this. And I started to understand, I was like, well, hey God, this is yours. You've got this. I understand. I know you have a plan. I don't see it yet, but this is happening for a reason. But he's working on things, and I feel like my relationship with God has improved a lot, so much. Like I said, I'm no longer lukewarm. I am burning on fire, and I want it to stay that way. I want to live in His righteousness. I want to walk in His righteousness, and that's where you find His heart. That's where you find the Father's heart. I've seen it. I've seen it. Saw that glimpse of it. And it was the most beautiful thing ever. Something I can never begin to explain, but I just remember there was beauty and peace. And that just that very small moment of time. And I can't explain it. I just can't. And that's, to me, that's how I know it's real. But love God with all your heart, all your strength, all your being. And when you love Him, live in Him. Live in God. Be in covenant with that. Be in covenant with God, not yourself. Scary to think about, but many of us are in covenant with ourselves. It's not intentional. It's just living in your own righteousness instead of His. And I think that's easy to do, and that's something that a lot of people fall into, and they I don't know. I mean, it's just when you think that you're doing something right, but it's by your own accounting. It's by what you feel is right by you, and not seeking out what He requires of you, not seeking out His heart, and His heart is in the Torah. So walk in His righteousness, not your own. How do you find His righteousness? It's written in the Torah. Write the Torah on your heart. Even if you don't do a weekly Torah portion, just study it when you can. And when you reach out for the nourishment that you need from the Father, make sure it's of the Father. Make sure it's of His heart. Make sure that whatever you're doing, whatever you're learning, whoever you're learning with, is aligned with His heart. Because I've seen, several times, even recently, where somebody, their teachings or the things that they want to talk about in a Bible study type setting is not aligned with God's heart. It's instead aligned with their pride or something else, just cherry picking scripture, trying to find something to align to what you want to talk about, and only what you want to talk about. It's just, and New Testament believers. I mean, I love you, and I know I've said it before, and please don't take please don't take this the wrong way. But please align yourselves to the Scripture. Find His heart in the Torah. It's there. I've seen it, and I know I'm on the right path. I know I'm chasing it. But even Yeshua said to what's written down, to the end of all things, not one yod, not one stroke shall be taken away from what is written. And He's talking about the Torah. He's talking about His laws. He didn't come to do away with the laws. He came to fulfill them. And I'm not saying that, whatever church or congregation or, gatherings or studies that you're doing is wrong. I'm just saying, make sure that you're aligned with the Father's heart in doing it. Just make sure that what's being taught is representative of the Father and the Father's desires. Again, human nature, and I know I've offended a lot of people lately. I've broken up with so many of my friends over this sort of thing, and or they broken up with me. Um, and it just goes to show, human nature, and how we do. We put our guard up about these things. I mean, when we talk about things that may take you outside of your comfort zone, and your comfort zone being what you were raised in and what you believe to be, and anything that challenges those beliefs. I mean, it has the potential to put you in the defensive and make you put your guard up, and instead of having a productive conversation, you can turn into a screaming match real quick. Or not even a screaming match. You could offend somebody and they'll shut you out. They'll unfriend you on Facebook and just never talk to you again because you offended them. But in this, in what we know is worldly and not spiritual, just be strong. I love you. Let the flesh die. Let the flesh die every day. Starve it. Feed the spirit. All right. Love y'all. Talk later.